The Michigan Wolverines defeated the Iowa Hawkeyes 27-14 on Saturday, and we feel good, right?
To try to outwork you, out-hustle you, and our guys were up for that challenge.
Today's video is sponsored by Wolverine.live. They put all the Michigan football news, recruiting, breakdowns, previews, and more in one spot. Link in the description. Coming into this game, Michigan had lost its last 4 games at Iowa, but the Wolverines were favored by 10.5 in this one. Michigan dominated the Hawkeyes 42-3 in last year's Big Ten championship game at a neutral site, but as we know, weird things can happen at Kinnick Stadium. The Hawkeyes came into this game with the top-rated defense in the country, and this was J.J. McCarthy's first start on the road, so there were some questions to be answered. Will J.J. take what the defense gives him or try to force things? Will the Hawkeyes' ball-hawking defense force turnovers? Can Michigan run the ball as easily as they have on other opponents? Let's get into the recap. Some good news coming into the game. Donovan Edwards, Trevor Keegan, and Carson Barnhart were all returning from injuries. The Wolverines were still, however, without Eric All. Michigan got the ball first, so immediately we were going to see if JJ and Blake Corum and the Wolverines were going to be able to move the ball on this Iowa defense. The first offensive drive for Michigan was nearly flawless. It was evident that Michigan was going to be able to run the ball because they were getting a great push from their offensive line. They drove the ball down the field, and a beautiful 16-yard end-around touchdown by Ronnie Bell capped off the drive to give Michigan a 7-zip lead just 5 minutes into the game. As for the Michigan defense, they shut down the Iowa offense on the first drive, forcing a 3-and-out, including a great play by Mike Sainristil on third down to force the punt. Michigan was moving the ball fairly successfully on their second drive until J.J. McCarthy got tripped by his own lineman, Zach Zinter, forcing a 2nd and 15 that Michigan just really didn't recover from on that drive. Iowa's next drive was handicapped by some inaccuracy by their quarterback Spencer Petras, so they had to punt back to Michigan. Michigan marched down and got a field goal on a drive that felt like some missed opportunities. JJ just barely missed Roman Wilson on a long touchdown pass, and then on a bit of a head scratcher, Michigan tried a speed option on 3rd and 4, and JJ just didn't really sell that very well, so Michigan had to kick that field goal. The Wolverines got another field goal before the half, so they were up 13-0 at the break. Some halftime thoughts are that the team looked pretty solid, but definitely could have been better. There were some missed opportunities. Also, the pass rush was still a little bit troubling, especially from the edge. Michigan was crushing Iowa in time of possession, and it just felt like it was a matter of time before the Hawkeyes defense was worn down. And despite the overthrow on the pass to Roman Wilson, JJ had a pretty solid first half. He was taking what the defense was giving him, he was going through his progressions, and he showed off that arm strength on the pass to Andrew Anthony. In the second half, Michigan came out looking strong. Mason Graham had a nice sack on Iowa's opening series, forcing a 3-and-out. Mason Graham is just a true freshman, and as JDo51 tweeted out, this is his 5th college football game. It's not just the strength he uses to ragdoll the left guard, but the quickness to track down his prey. This is freshman All-America kind of play. The next drive for Michigan was a beautiful mixture of run and pass plays, and when Michigan got down in the red zone on a 3rd and 7, JJ and Donovan Edwards made some magic happen. Iowa's defensive end came through unblocked, but McCarthy rolled out, and Donovan Edwards showed some great awareness by going to the back of the end zone where JJ found him for 6. That put Michigan up 20-0, and it felt like they were just going to coast. Michigan dominated almost the first 3 quarters of this game, but then one play gave the Hawkeyes some momentum. A fumble/backward pass, whatever you want to call it, from J.J. McCarthy pinned the Wolverines deep in their own territory. Nice heads up again by Edwards to jump on this ball though. And then a not so great punt by Brad Robbins gave Iowa starting field position on Michigan's side of the field. A play action pass to a fullback and a 3rd and 22 conversion later put Iowa on the 2, and then they punched it in for a touchdown. Then Iowa got a stop, got the ball back, was driving down the field to try to cut this to a 1-score game. However, Michigan stopped them on a 4th and 2 from the 6-yard line. Can I just point out Iowa still huddling when they were down 2 scores with 6 minutes to go though? They're still huddling, and then when they go for it on 4th and 2, they throw a pass that is short of the sticks on a 4th and 2. How does that happen? On the next drive, Michigan went uber conservative and tried to eat some clock, but it didn't really work, so they had to punt the ball back to Iowa yet again to keep them in this game. But then Michigan's defensive line pretty much sealed the deal. Between Mike Morris and Ayabi Oki, they were in the backfield on every play on that Iowa drive. Blake Corum scored his FBS leading 10th rushing touchdown to seal it with just a minute to go, including a pretty sick move on an All-American linebacker. Iowa did add one garbage time touchdown at the end to make the final score 27-14. Let me tell you about today's sponsor, Wolverine.live. Wolverine.live has all of your favorite Michigan football content in one place. You can get articles from Maize n Brew, MGO Blog, The Wolverine, MLive, ESPN, Wolverine Digest, Wolverine's Wire, 24/7 Sports, and more. They also have a section for all the latest Michigan podcasts and videos. And lastly, on the right-hand side of the site, they have a Twitter feed that is always updating, giving you the most recent tweets from the biggest Michigan football accounts. So if you want to get all of your Michigan football content from one place, Wolverine.live is the place to do it. Check out the link down in the description. Some team stats from the game. Michigan had 327 yards of total offense. Iowa had 281. Passing yards, 155. Iowa had 246. But here was the difference in the game. Rushing yards, Michigan 172, Iowa only 35. Penalties, each team had 5. First downs, 24-16. Both teams were 4 for 11 on third down. And the time of possession was heavily in Michigan's favor. Petrus was 21 of 31 for 246. The running game for Iowa was kept in check. And the receiving was basically a bunch of tight ends and fullbacks catching passes. For Michigan, McCarthy was an efficient 18 for 24, 155 yards and a touchdown. Blake Corum, 29 carries, 133 yards and a touchdown. Edwards, 5 for 29. Ronnie Bell had his carry for a touchdown as well. Receiving for Michigan, Schoonmaker, 4 for 45. Andrell Anthony had his nice catch for 29 yards. And then Roman Wilson had 4, and Donovan Edwards had 4, including his touchdown. On the defensive side, Rod Moore had a nice game with 4 tackles. Mike Morris had his 2 sacks. Mason Graham had a sack. Upshaw had a half a sack and a very nice play sniffing out a screen pass. And Ayabioki officially had a half a sack, but he was in the Iowa backfield on pretty much every play on that last meaningful drive they had. Here are my top takeaways after watching Michigan beat Iowa. Just like last year, Michigan doesn't need to pass the ball a lot. They can win games by running it. But if they want to go to the playoff, they need to be able to connect on these deep passes. The defensive line needs to be able to generate just a little more pressure from the edge when they're only rushing 4 guys. They did that toward the end of the game. Can they do it throughout an entire game? Can they do it against better offensive lines? That's a big question. The interior defensive line is a strength of this team, and so is stopping the run. One takeaway is that JJ looked really mature out there. He was taking what the defense was giving him. He was making quick reads. He was going through his progressions, but he needs to get better at the deep ball. He needs to get that dialed in. We've seen him do it. We saw him do it last year. We've seen him hit these passes. He just needs to get that touch dialed in on the long passes. This team has a lot of potential. I think Michigan knew that they could be really conservative in this game on offense and still win. They weren't scared of Iowa's offense. So it was one of those games where it's just, you know, if you don't turn the ball over, then you're going to get the win. This article from Mason Brew says McCarthy's excited to be part of an offense that has the ability to beat teams on the ground as well as through the air. It's amazing. It just shows how dangerous we are as a unit. We could go on the ground and run for 200, 300, but we can also go through the air with it and throw for 300, 400, McCarthy said after the game. The guys are hungry. They're chomping at the bit to get the air raid going. I'm so happy to be a part of this offense. So grateful to be around these guys and be around co-offensive coordinators Coach Moore and Coach Weiss. We're just very dangerous all around. I know that a lot of Michigan fans are not happy with the lack of down the field passing so far from this team, but I think it's coming. JJ McCarthy, this was his first road start. This is only his 4th start ever. I really think that we're going to see the offense growing and McCarthy getting more confident with down the field throws. And especially once Cade McNamara gets back, I think we'll see JJ take some more chances with his legs. So we'll just have to see how that goes. Coach Harbaugh is very encouraging of JJ. He says, play your game. There's nobody that loves that game more than I do. He's better than me, but he reminds me of a young Jimmy Harbaugh. Up next, Michigan travels to Bloomington, Indiana to take on the Hoosiers in the 2nd road game in a row. Make sure to like this video, make sure to subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next video. Go Blue.